Hello there. This is another of the interviews for the Criterion 60th Anniversary Memories Project, where we talk to members, past and present, about their memories of the Criterion Theatre. Today, I've got Dave and Linda Holmes from left to right. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Hi.
Good.
So we'll just jump straight in. I always like to start with how you first got involved with the Criterion. Now we've had this quite a few times. So you are a couple. You are together. You come as a team. Were you already a couple and team before the Criterion? Did you come together?
Well, I went to the Criterion before I met Linda because I went down with Pete Bagley. But I didn't get involved in any of the shows. It's just the fact that Pete Bagley thought that Criterion would place out a party.
Right. Yes.
So that's the only involvement I had with the Criterion before.
So you jump straight into the social side of affairs.
Okay.
How long before you actually were coerced into doing something, which is generally how people start doing stuff?
We started off as club members, didn't we? We used to go down to the shows, and that was probably from like the mid-70s. And then we bumped in. Mr. Bagley sort of went on a bit of a different route up to York and what have you. And he came back because Dave and Pete had been mates for years, and Pete was our best man and that sort of stuff. And bizarrely, Louise, Pete's wife, was actually my art teacher. Now, I was in sixth form and it was her first year of teaching. So it sounds as if there was a huge age gap between us. In fact, there wasn't.
You just wanted to put that on record. You wanted to put that on record straight up front. Okay, good.
Yeah. So we met Pete, well, you met Pete in the co-op and sort of said, oh, back, listeners will like that. And he said, why don't you come down to the Criterion for a drink? So we started going down to the theatre, and we found it very sort of friendly family and things like that. I then had yet another baby, the third baby. And I was with a couple of other friends who got young children, and we wanted, this sounds so strange, we wanted somewhere where we could go out on a once a week to get away from the family, but was safe enough that we knew that the telephone would ring if our partners needed us back with the young children, because they were quite young babies and stuff. So I said, well, why don't we go down to the Criterion on a Wednesday night, because it's, it's quite enough, it's far enough for us to dash home if need be. So that was really how we sort of started to get more involved. Pete was down there, I was going down, and then I think I was the first one to do something.
It
was Rookery Nook.
No, I did. The first thing I did.
Oh, well, you were the first person to get involved.
Actually, I should. This is not my amazing brain working, but I have got the archive open, so I can solve the argument. Although it might be fun to let it run for a couple more minutes. But I think, Linda, you did wardrobe on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory just before you did wardrobe on Rookery Nook, which, Dave, you built.
Yes, well, helpful. Yes, it was Phil Bagley.
It's all very incestuous.
I was talking to him in the bar, and I happened to mention that I'd been rehanging the door at home. And he said, oh, can you hang the doors? I went, oh yeah, I can get that. He said, how would you like to help build a couple of doors on the set of the next play we're doing? And I said, yeah, okay. But what I didn't realise was that I'd be hanging the doors 6.5 foot off the floor onto flats that were wobbling all over the place for Rookery Nook.
There was a lot of doors in Rookery Nook.
There was.
Yeah, people who don't know, that's a farce where a lot of those doors are opening and closing an awful lot with people with no trousers on.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think there was some ongoing repairs during performances as well.
No, that was another thing.
That was another thing.
That also involved doors, but
Doors feature a lot in Dave's time at the Criterion Theatre.
now that was going to be one of my funny moments. Reading.
We can come back to it. We'll build up to it. We can all set that up easily. Yeah. So you started there as it was a sort of parental creche for
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Sort of, mothers, sort of the mum's net before there was a net.
Before
Just
the
a
net.
bar, mum's bar.
Yeah.
So you both then you both stuck to your guns quite a lot. Linda, you did a lot of wardrobe, and Dave, you did an awful lot of set building. I think you're listed on 126.
Linda
126.
became head of wardrobe,
Yes.
and I became head of set design and build.
I did do a lot of wardrobe, and I did enjoy it an awful lot.
Was
And
that something? Was that something you were already interested in when you arrived, or was that something that you just kind of developed?
Yeah, I suppose it was. I've always made things, so I was always quite sort of handy with the sewing machine, as long as the Criterion was perfect for me, because I didn't have to last very long. So I'm not particularly good at detail, or wasn't there, I didn't have the time. But it was a bit formidable, the wardrobe department at the time. There was a couple of strong characters in there. So
Who was in charge of the wardrobe at that time?
The wonderful Maureen Cooking.
Yes.
And Janet was still in the background. Do you remember Janet?
Janet Turnbull.
Janet Turnbull, who was absolutely terrifying. I found it terrifying. She was a very nice lady, actually, but she had some air of scariness. So it was a bit of a sort of it was a bit of a sort of scary world to enter. But I did enjoy doing it, and then Maureen stood down as head of wardrobe. So as in most of my things at the Criterion Theatre, they couldn't find anybody else to do it. So they asked me. So I ended up doing it.
There is a bit of a history of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when we've talked about how they got involved, it was basically they suddenly found themselves there and then were given a bunch of responsibilities. Which is a terrifying thing, but also a wonderful thing, because it's a very easy way to get involved when people are so willing to drag you into things.
That's how I got involved with the bar as well. Because I went down there one night, and I think Joan was just going home. She said, "Well, there's nobody on the bar, so if you want to drink, you have to help yourself." And, that was when the bar was down at the bottom end.
Dave thought this was brilliant until he realised he still had to pay. She didn't literally mean how it sound.
No, but no. So I was just helping myself, and then a couple of more people came in, and obviously thought I was on the bar.
So now suddenly you work here.
Yeah, and then Joan came back a bit later, and she said, "Oh, have you been helping out behind the bar?" And I said, yeah, it's all right. She said, right, shall I put you on the rota? In a way that Joan said.
Another formidable lady.
I will.
Yeah. I assume that was I assume you were being written down onto the rota as she was asking you whether you'd like to. That's usually how.
That's about the way it worked, yes.
Yeah. She was another Criterion strong woman.
Yeah, it's amazing you mentioned that, because I think there is a history of, formidable, I think is the nice way of saying it, but there are definitely people who were in positions of authority that were quite frightening. I think I mean, I started there very early, and June Pickerel was a choreographer and director of shows, and she terrified me, like right up until, you know, I was into my mid-30s, quite comfortably. I was still a little bit frightened of her, but by that time I'd realized that actually she was also a wonderful person as well. So
Yeah, she was lovely, but
yeah,
really scary.
yeah, a bit of a stern exterior, I think it's fair to say. Are there specific productions over the years that that stick in your mind that you remember?
Well, I can't
Things you've
remember
worked
the name
on
of
or things you've been involved with?
well, the first one that I actually designed was the one for Annie, which was the
Oh, the one that Mark was in, about breaking the code. In fact, it's called Breaking the Code.
where I said that I just build it using the scaffolding and hanging the doors and windows from the
Doors
scaffolding.
again.
Well, they weren't working, but they were for
A theme.
and Annie said, I can't see how that's going to work, but I'll let you have a go. This is very nice of Annie to do that. And it worked really quite well. It just got out with the scaffolding for like 3 walls of the section, the scaffolding with windows and doors hanging from it, which gave Mark the opportunity to actually sit on the front of the stage and talk to the audience and see.
That was a wonderful production.
Yeah, so I think I was quite pleased with that one. It was the first one I actually designed. I think it was me and another chap.
Did you do Shadow Ones?
Yes, I did shoot movies.
No, I don't mean Shadow Ones, I mean Shadow of the
I helped build the set. But
Mm.
I didn't find that. I think that was really
I was going to say, I mean, you're down as like part of the set construction team on a huge number of shows, and there's probably an awful lot more that you were involved with, because a lot of the time it's just kind of you go down one night and paint or put something up and you don't end up in the program, so that those ones aren't covered. If you've got any gaps that you want to fill, you can submit those via the website to make sure that
I can't remember the ones I actually designed and built, let alone the ones that I was involved.
Skylight you built.
Skylight.
You designed it, Skylight.
did.
Yeah.
That was my first direction, I think. It was the first play I directed. It's a very nice set. The working kitchen in it.
Yeah, this is true.
I think one of the in terms of the costume stuff, I always like doing the Pete Shakespeare's, because me, Pete and Louise worked really well together collaboratively, and Pete always involved me right in from the beginning in terms of developing a concept rather than just providing some clothes for the actors. So there was that I always felt was part of the creative process, which, being a creative person, was quite important to me, really. So Midsummer Night's Dream was a big one, although Olivia, youngest, always remembers it, because she was one of the fairies and she had quite short hair at the time, so ish. And I wanted it really spiky. So there was a number of them. So I put, sounds barbaric, but I actually put their hair in sugar water. So it would go stiff. And I got the hairdryer and I was doing her hair and I was like, getting it all sticky, looking wonderful. And somebody was talking to me, sister, like we were getting ready to go on. And I was going, oh, you just, and she was going, no, Mum, just shut up. Oh, God, for goodness sake. And I would actually caramelize the sugar on the scalp of her head. So she got blisters on her head. So, yeah, so I think I might be a bit scary as well.
In all fairness, it smelt delicious. That whole place smelt of candy floss,
Yeah.
which really covered up the smell of henna from Matt's tattoos.
Yes.
I think if people want to
tattoos were great.
people want to cross-reference this, I did a an interview with Pete Bagley the other week, and we talked quite a bit about Matt's about the look of the show, because they were all new age travelers, so they were all kind of quite amazing costumes.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, that was a good one.
And then you also did Romeo and Juliet, which was a similar thing, and also and then the Tempest.
The Tempest. Well. I loved the Tempest actually. I was really proud of what I did in the Tempest, and that was with John Rusco. And he's like this amazing director, but he's also really open about stuff. And he sort of said to me, and I was not expecting it because it's the first time I'd really worked with John. And he said, you know, he said, it's no point you sort of talking to me about what it's going to look like. So I'm really not very good at visualizing that. He said, you need to do it, and then I'll tell you whether I like it or not. And I was really sort of surprised because I thought he'd have this brain, almost like photographic, that he would know exactly what he wants. So I was really sort of quite taken by that. And there was a wonderful bit of serendipity because if you remember, in the previous season, about 6 months before we did the Tempest, I haven't got that timeline right, we'd done the sort of spoof, along with the robot that get
Forbidden Planet.
Return to the Forbidden Planet. And no, it's the other way around. We did the Tempest first. Then we did Return to the Forbidden Planet, I think. And I used the costumes that I'd done in the Tempest. I used them in the Forbidden Planet.
I never knew that.
Obviously, I altered them and made them more space-like with pod bits of tin stuff. I'm not happy with tin foil. But the actual shirts that they wore were the same shirts that I'd worn in the Tempest. And, you know, it gave me such great satisfaction that actually nobody else in the world even got the connection.
I've got to say, I didn't get that. But yeah, Return to the Forbidden Planet is, of course, based on the story of the Tempest.
That's what I
They're
did.
all tied together. Well, there you go. That's a what? That's a 15-year payoff. Nothing but respect for that. Everybody get on the archive and you can dive through those pictures, which I'll be doing in a minute.
It was a nightmare, the Tempest, because it was really hot. I don't know if you remember, it was really, really hot summer. And so I've got these like cuffs, cowls, and arm bits that were cut like sort of 60s style space outfits with big, and it was silver sort of fake leather. And the trouble is, it was all brought together with glue guns. So it was, and every night they were just melting, and and so it was. I had to keep them in the fridge. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, great plans that went astray on that one.
Yeah, if you go on the archive, you can actually check that out. They are indeed all the same shirts.
Yeah.
That's great. I've not spotted that at all.
Going to talk again about doors on set. There's a play called about three women, three American women who were set partially in a hairdressing.
Oh,
Steel Magnolias?
yes, Steel Magnolias, yes.
And I haven't actually built the doors. Somebody else had built the doors, but somebody wanted to check it, so check them like
I see doors.
I see, yes, I was still in charge of set design and build. And halfway through the first act, the door closed and wouldn't open again. So that made a bit of a fuck up of me because it was fairly near the end of the scene. So during the interval, somebody came and collected me from the bar and said, we need to sort the doors out. So there was I, having gone to see the play, behind the curtains, unhanging and rehanging the door so it would open and close. And somebody said to me, it wouldn't open. And I said, look, when you ask for a door, what you really wanted to do, you need it to close, don't you? And I went, yeah. I said, nobody asked me about opening. Anyway, we had to rehang the door because what had happened was the hinge had slipped and the corner of the door was catching. So we had 15 minutes to do that. I don't think I've unhung and rehung the door any quicker than that. But in the second half, you know, the magic of theatre, the door was working again.
So do you remember Barefoot in the Park? We had a problem with the door as well. There was a door at the top of some steps that just kind of, I think that one was the opposite problem. It kept coming open. And there was, it seemed to be any, so everyone in the audience was like, who's this? Oh, no, it's no one.
Yeah.
It would have been much better if somebody had actually just come through. We should have done it one night. Just had somebody enter randomly.
Yes, we've got the props people. So, oh, sorry, close it again.
I think it would have been Mike Tooley, I think, was playing the electrician, or one. He was playing a handyman.
Right, yeah.
He kept coming up there. I've got a vague memory of seeing him.
Mike was in that.
Yeah.
Let's forget that Mike was actually did go on stage.
Couple of very fine cameos. I'm hoping to get Mike on for an interview soon to go through those, because they're very, very fondly remembered cameos. Another person that wasn't kind of necessarily interested or comfortable going on stage, but ended up there anyway, being pushed on with a stick.
Very recently in the Italian Straw Hat as well.
Yes, speaking role, quite a meaty part in the pandemic-driven online play that was done in 2021 in February, when nothing else could happen and the theatre was sadly closed. I always put this caveat in because it could well be that in a year's time we've all forgotten about coronavirus and everyone thinks, what the hell are they talking about? What on earth happened?
Yes, I think I'm the only person around that's still part of the NAU. The one that I started in about 1991.
I don't know about that.
It's the non-acting union. So nobody would go on stage. And I think I'm the only person.
Set builders.
The set builders and design.
So have you managed to stay completely clear of that?
Yes, I am the only member now of the NAU, and I don't think I've ever.
He did actually.
Not on the Criterion.
Not on the Criterion.
Were you somewhere around on Lark Rise to Candleford?
No.
You're not. All right.
No, I was. There's been two instances of people or women fainting at the theatre, and on both occasions I've been through the house. One of those is in Lark Rise to Candleford, so I had to drag this woman out and she fainted.
Was that another hot summer?
Yes, it was another hot summer.
I think there have been a couple.
Really appeared on stage.
Well, no, well, it really appeared like, well, I appeared in the auditorium dragging a woman out, so whether or not they thought they were part of the play, I don't know. But,
I'm sure they all thought it was part of the show. It's amazing, actually, thinking back on the history of the Criterion of like hot and cold. We've had like huge heaters in there in the winter when it's been like really freezing cold for like the hour before the show starts. We've had these like what look like jet engines that just go in there and blast hot air into there. And we've also had fans in there as well. But obviously fans harder because they make a heck of a noise and you can't really have them on during the show.
Yeah, it was great having the roof sorted, but what we found out is that there is no ventilation.
All the holes were very, very good for a breeze in the past.
Yeah.
As soon as that got fixed. Coming on to the building, so Linda, not only did you broke the union code and you've been on stage quite a few times, but also you were chairperson for a long time.
I was. I think the longest. I think I held that role for the longest. I was the longest standing chair.
I want to touch on that because I don't think we've had people that have had kind of head of departments and stuff, but actually kind of being the person that's responsible for the theatre. What's that like? How's that?
It was a fun-filled, joyous job that nobody else wanted to do. Yeah,
Challenging.
it was challenging at times. It was a huge responsibility. You need to be pretty fearless to sometimes steer the theatre through, the ups and downs.
What does it involve? What a sort of time commitment do you think that is? I mean, how
It's a huge
how often is your phone ringing?
phone's ringing most days with stuff. It's all the hidden stuff that people don't see. So, and you don't want people to see. So it's troubleshooting and resolving falling outs and bits and bobs, which happen with all great organisations and all great families. And the Criterion I've always thought of as a great family, really. So, your job as chair is exactly the same as any other management role. It's actually that you're there to make it happen, and to encourage people and to support people who are maybe struggling, or it's different with a voluntary organisation because people aren't being paid. It's all done on goodwill. And I think you have to be available and lead really not in a sort of, I hope I'm not leading in a sort of bombastic way, but you need to sort of set an example of involvement and to get your hands dirty and just get stuck in, which was one of the reasons why in the end I did resign, because I felt that I couldn't do that in the way that I'd always wanted to. I know in certain theatres across the country that the board are almost separate to actually the company, and people wouldn't even know who they were. I don't actually think that works at an organisation like the Criterion. I think the chair has to be seen and has to set the culture of the theatre. And I'm sure every chair's done that in their own way, and they've set the culture that they believed in.
Because at the time that there was a sort of crossover between, so there was the Criterion Club that kind of managed the bar and the sort of that side of it, and then there was the company board which managed the plays and the building and various things. I think those two are now conjoined. I think.
Yeah, they are conjoined. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that takes huge amounts of time, because it's around constitutions and working within constitutions and making sure people understand the constitution. And a lot of people, they come down because they actually want to act and they want to have fun, and goodness knows what. But and I think there's a danger of just assuming that isn't really important. It's a bit of nonsense that we have to have. Well, actually, it's the bedrock of the organisation, and it needs to be right. It needs to be. So we changed the constitution recently and brought it up to date to be changed.
Yeah, because it had been the same for probably like 30 years. Comfortably.
Yeah, absolutely. And things move on and things change, and and the board now, I'm sure, deal with very different issues to the issues that I dealt with, because it's an evolving, organic organisation, and I was the chair at a particular period in time, and I dealt with the issues that came along and dealt with them in the best of my ability. But we had some really difficult situations, and other things.
That's what we have to do.
We don't need to go into the difficult situations. But there was lots
things
of
like the
joy and
roof,
happiness.
things like the roof, which were evergreen problems that have been problems for probably 50 years. Things like the kind of foundation of the building and updating, and theatre's now a charity, which I know for a long time. I know you were pushing that very hard. Were you still involved with the board when that actually came about?
So that was concluded with Anne-Marie, I think, finished that after I'd gone. But it was a really complicated scenario. And I mean, one of the things is that charity laws change all the time. So yeah, it's having the time to take. And towards the end of my tenure, I was working in the Isle of Wight. So being able to sort of take time out of work to go and meet the solicitors and do the sort of the daytime stuff, because when you're part of the board, you're taking additional responsibility. It's not always evening work. It's also stuff that you need to do during the day. So yeah, it became too much.
And also, I mean, going back to what you said about how you started as a social kind of person before you got kind of particularly involved with, both of you were very heavily involved with social events over the years, which I always like to touch on because it's a massive part of sort of life at the Criterion. The sort of events, Christmases, and well, right through the year really. The Osborne Festival, which you'd be very heavily involved with. There's a kind of a calendar of events, and then birthdays and sadly funerals, and various other things that would always kind of be around, various charity nights.
Yeah, I think that the social side of theatre sort of dropped off a bit. I mean,
Certainly has recently.
Well, yes,
yeah.
I mean, before the pandemic, we used to go down on a Wednesday, and the bar would be full. And because they used to have meetings, so the set production committee would always meet on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So that would be 5 or 6 people.
But things change, and the needs of people are different. And I'm not involved anymore, so I'm not really comment. But I've seen loads of stuff done online. So whereas you needed a physical presence before, so it does and I'm sure there's still a big social side of stuff that we're probably unaware of because we're not so engaged anymore. So we're not part of that sort of inner circle bit. And I'm sure it still happens and people still enjoy a social event if you get the criteria. And I'm sure that always will happen because people need social interaction, and that's the glue that holds a company together. So it's not just about the plays. Yes, you need the plays, but for it to, well, for me, the criterion isn't just about I want to do acting, I want to do this. It's actually about I want to be part of a company, and for people to be able to meld together and to form a company, there needs to be some social interaction. There needs to be some bringing together of the quiet people who maybe don't get up on stage and do stuff, but they can be sort of become invisible unless there's the bringing together of people, so that all of those little bits that can become invisible actually make a production. You need people to serve the coffee and the ice cream. You need all of that. It's all part of the production, and they all need to feel that they're valued and that actually they're part of the company where nobody is more important than anybody else. It's actually the product that's important rather than the people. So, those social events, I'm sure, go on, and I'm sure that they happen. And people get together in other ways. They get together online, they Zoom, and so on. And as well, I'll finish it on that.
Yeah, I mean, we used to get quite
I'm
involved.
in danger of wittering.
Yeah, we used to get quite involved in the Christmas and New Year stuff.
We did.
But then it got taken over, maybe by your brother.
Which was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was absolutely great because, you know, we need to, we're really old. So we need to move back and let other people do things. Because, that's the nature of a growing organisation that will continue. You're only there for a bit. You do your bit, and hopefully there's other people coming up behind you that you've supported and nurtured that will then come on and take over. It's not my criterion, it's not your criterion, it's nobody's criterion. It's actually the entity, hopefully, will continue in 100 years' time. There will be another you and another me who will be doing this in probably a totally different sort of avatar way or something. I don't know.
We've only got.
I think that's really hip, but probably it's really old news. So
we've only got another 40 years to go, Beck, and then we'll make your practical century.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the 100th. Really, I'm starting to think about what I might do for that.
Unless we bring other people, younger people on, and encourage people and make sure that everybody's valued and everybody's, not just for their abilities, but because of their class, their ethnicity, their gender, etc., then you need all of that, because you need that to actually represent the plays that we're doing, to inform those performances. You have to have people who those plays touch and are able to then actually draw from their own experience to be able to put into the productions.
While we're touching on social, one of your other legendary contributions amongst all of the others was the after show parties. I mean, if the after show party was at Linda and Dave's, the attendance would go from normally it's just people involved in the show, but if it was at your house, people knew there would be a fantastic spread of food. So you ended up getting just anybody that was in the bar. People would just turn up on the Saturday night, kind of holding out for an invite and getting brought along.
Yeah. Some of those parties didn't sort of continued into Sunday afternoon.
Some of them are still going, I think. I think certainly they bothered the set strike, which traditionally happens on the Sunday morning at 10 or 11 o'clock. I think certainly.
I think they moved it quite a few times.
Yeah, I think certainly some people, because you don't live too far from the theatre, I think certainly a lot of those after show parties, if it was there, then you might as well just go straight to the set strike in the morning, bring a flask.
I think you were one of those, James.
I think I probably was at times. I do remember getting invited in after a Friday night occasionally and stayed over a couple of times, which was always an absolute treat because, again, the breakfast was really good. It was not the continental breakfast. It was a proper stay. It was if TripAdvisor had been a thing at the time, it would have been.
Steve Withers was another frequent stopover.
You'd stumble over Steve in the morning.
Are there particular shows that stand out for you over the years? Things that I
mean, Nicholas Nickleby was.
I was about to say Nicholas Nickleby is the obvious one that most people bring up just because everybody was in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll always remember the night when every night I came on as Britannia, but it was the night when I came on with my tribe. And I had to sing some song, which was a trial. But and I put down stood my trident, and the top fell off. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody just put their hand out and caught it really neatly. You have to put that in the plane every night. I was really late coming on because I had to do a very, very quick change, and I had to put on this ridiculously big wig. And there was Maureen and Pam were doing the set dress change, and the wig got caught in a bracelet that I had to wear. So they had to try and unpick this enormous curly wig out of my bracelet. I came on with the wig all skewed and looking just sort of, I think we'd all done a second chorus of what I was supposed to put into. And yes, that was very, very funny.
Was that the England Arise song at the
England
end?
Arise, that's right.
The first show.
And I was playing, I was playing Keith Welson's wife. He was the actor manager. What was their name? I can't remember the name of the couple.
Crummels.
The Crummels. I was Mrs. Crummel. We were Mr. and Mrs. Crummel, that's right. And that was really good. And that, so I had two characters in that part. One was Mrs. Crummel, who is just gorgeously delightful and lovely. And the other was the horrible Mrs. Squeers. So I had a nice bit of dark in that.
And that play was in two parts. So a lot of people were in kind of every night. I was very lucky because I was only in one of the parts. So every other night I was off. Were you in both of those?
I was in both. Yeah, it was really hard work, and I had a particular problem because I have a real problem with certain words. I struggle. I've got with speech impediment, and I tried to disguise really well. But there's certain words I had in the beginning, the opening scene, we were all sort of like standing in a sort of square. We all had little words to say that made up a sort of opening speech. Do you remember? And I have to say the apothecary. I'll say it now, apothecary. Apothecary. And I can remember Helen had almost like a meltdown. I couldn't say. I said, I'm going to take the part off you, Linda, if you don't say it properly. I was done waiting in the clip room. We came up and back. Never was saying, can you say it in me? No, you got it wrong. You got it wrong. You say it, you say it.
It's always good that when you start to examine it and then suddenly you don't even know what the word is anymore. If you saw it on paper, is it apothecary or is it apothecary? I can't even remember.
I really wanted to just say chemist.
Yeah, that's fine. Pharmacist.
I don't think Helen would have been happy with said chemist.
No. It's not very Dickens.
Mm.
Dave, you got any fond ones?
Well, I've got, whether or not they're fond, but I can't remember playing what it was a musical. And John Ellis' first starring part.
Oh, that was not Rocky Horror Show.
Dracula Spectacular?
Dracula Spectacular.
Yes, where I changed the theatre completely the way around. Right. And the problem was that I designed it so there was 2 rows of seats in the auditorium in front of the stage, which would have pushed the rest of the seats forward. But June Pickerel
The famous June.
decided that she wanted all of the auditorium
For dancing.
So she put the 2 rows of seats on the stage, pushed the raised part of the seat back, so people on the back couldn't see.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
So we had to shift all the seats forward so people could see. But apart from that, I thought that the set was really good.
Yeah, piece of Gary didn't like it.
Well, he couldn't see. But
All
again,
the tall people down the front, all the short people at the the periscope on.
But yeah, so I mean, I quite enjoyed that set. Apart from the fact that people couldn't see it. No, well, I could see the back, on the back.
Yeah,
The back of the auditorium. It was brilliant. People going up and down the stairs and and down the rope ladder and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
the set you designed had a bit of the floor. Yeah. Because Jim said no, there's not enough space for my dancers.
Yeah, you can't step ball change without a good 3 meters leg room.
And I also quite like art-wise was the sweat and effort to take the bloody seats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a chat with Pete Bagley about that because that was when the seats first came out and never ever went back.
No, it was great. Really good.
I was at a meeting. I was at the meeting with Pete. I think I was just there for moral support, and he was saying that we can take the seats out, and the create makers will be able to put them back in again. I think that was on the board. And they were saying, oh yeah, okay. We'll just see how easy it is to take the seats out. But they weren't there. They were taking the seats, the back row seats. They don't seem to be seized on and cut on the bolts off.
I don't think Pete ever had any intention of them going back then.
No, I don't think he did.
I think Pete may have known that. I think Anne Woodward, who was artistic director at the time, I think Pete was saying she was kind of all keen for them to go back in. And then as soon as the show actually went on and people were looking at it and looked around and thought, no, let's never put these back. Let's keep it a temporary. And it opened up so much like extra opportunity to do different things.
Yeah.
It certainly did.
In fact, the show I just mentioned, I wouldn't have been able to do that for 6 months.
And you've dragged several children in. The Holmes is another of the family legacy projects of the Criterion, of which there are a few. I think I've already interviewed Jenny, your oldest. Let's not say oldest. Actually, she'll object to that. The most mature of your children, your first child.
Yes.
Prima daughter.
and Lewis in the middle, but then he moved away. So I suspect he would have been a lot more involved had he stayed in the same locale.
Yeah, he did a few bits. He did Dracula Spectacular as one of the zombies. He was in Heart Prize. He did Candlefoot. He did a number of things.
He's in a couple of.
He's never forgiven your mum. He's never forgiven your mum. It was wardrobe on Chuck in the Beanstalk.
I was going to say this.
And at the time, I think he was probably about 13, 14, maybe.
1990.
He had to wear these gingham bib shorts. So they were like gingham shorts with a bib with tights on underneath. And his mates came to see it. William Lee still drags it up.
I'm just looking. Tragically, there are no pictures of Jack and the Beanstalk. So if anybody's watching and has evidence of this, we'd definitely like to add those to the archive.
But the interesting thing is that obviously Genevieve and Matthew met at the Criterion Theatre. And Olivia met Pete at the Criterion Theatre, and Jenny and Matt are married. Olivia and Pete soon to be married. But Lewis and Suzanne used to go to the drama classes.
Oh, right.
And, yeah, so they sort of knew each other at the Criterion for a bit as well as a slight, like, it's this like contumacious sort of thing. And Louis, Suzanne, and Gareth all did A-level drama studies together. And Louis and Suzanne were husband and wife in the part, and Gareth was their son.
Ah, lovely. was, I mean, it's interesting what you say about like Olivia and Jenny have both been very heavily involved in the youth theatre over the years as well. I mean, I won't dwell on it because I'm sure I will get to Olivia, and I have discussed it a little bit with Jenny. But tying into your future generation, bringing people in behind, there's probably not anyone that's done any more for the theatre over the last 25 years than those two have. Like bringing people in, and actually running the youth theatre. And actually making them part of the theatre rather than like that's the youth theatre and that's the proper theatre, and the actual like trying to cross-pollinate, well, not cross-pollinate because some of the older members would look very ridiculous in the youth theatre, but getting the younger members kind of
integrate it into not see it as something different or something less, but actually something that's
I mean, there's quite a lot
has its own identity, but is part of the Criterion.
There's still quite a few of the youth theatre who came up to the youth theatre and still part of the theatre now.
Yeah.
Yes, I had that chat with Becky Cripton, saying that I fondly remembered her from being in the youngest drama class, and she had absolutely no memory of me whatsoever.
Really?
I think she was putting it on. She was just playing coy. I think I probably made a huge mark on her life.
Ben Lancaster as well.
Yes, yeah, Ben's but Ben, I think, was teaching at Sturchill Primary, having been like 8 or 9 probably when he started in the youth theatre. He was teaching my nephew when he was 6 or 7 in Sturchill Primary.
He's now at Hersal and he's teaching our grandchildren.
Terrifying, isn't it?
I know.
Shouldn't be allowed, really. What's your hope for the theatre going forwards? Where do you see it going, or are you just happy to sit back and watch it go?
I hope that whatever we did to put the theatre forward will be taken on by other people. I know it's purely voluntary. There's a lot of other theatres that have paid positions within the theatre, but I think the whole aspect of volunteering, I think that, I mean, it's when you say to people, "Oh, would you like to volunteer?" They immediately take 2 steps back. But if you ask them sort of nice and say, "Oh, do you mind giving me a hand?" A bit like Joan did with me in the car. And then they find that it's reasonably, it's not that difficult to work with. Yeah, and it's okay, you need a bit more nice to do front of house or box office. But I think I'm not quite sure what box office does now. It would be online bookings and things. I think it's going on shit.
And let Frances do something.
I've talked to Frances about it, and she says yes. The work that I used to put into the box office is totally negligible. I mean, they hardly take any cash. And because even if people turn up to the theatre, they usually pay what.
I just hope that the Criterion continues, and I'm sure it will. If it gets through, and it has got through the lockdown, then it was clearly in quite a strong place when that happened. So it needs to build on that strength and sort of value the position that we're in, and that it has. It's got a good place to bounce back from. It hasn't sort of folded. I'm sure there are other organisations that won't see it through. So I mean, that's a real strength, and the strength, the strength of the Criterion will always be the people who were there at the time. I would, it would be tragic if it didn't continue. I mean, apart from any of that, what a flipping load of waste of my time that was. So, being perfectly selfish, why did I bother? So yeah, I think Criterion to flourish and continue, but also to adapt, because that's the only way it will continue. Is it has to adapt to the to what's happening today. Without, I mean, I don't mean. I'm not talking about the content now, although that's obviously really important, but the way people conduct their life and the changes. There's so much change. I mean, it's quite a sort of, I suppose, in some way, a bit of a sad thing for me to say, but in many ways, I feel as if I'm witnessing a completely different world that we're moving into. And it must be a bit like, I mean, I've had this conversation with Dave, it must be a bit like in 1880 when, suddenly the steam trains happened and agriculture, well, 1870, and goodness knows what happened. And that huge change in the world and in the Western world, huge change. And I feel that that's exactly the same as what's happening now. There's this enormous change, and it's going to impact on everybody's part of life. It's not a world that I'll be part of, really.
We'll have to see what happens.
But the theatre needs to adapt to that.
I'm not quite sure what show they're putting on next, but that will be definitely after the 19th. So whether or not they'll still have social distancing for it, I don't know. But I think people are still quite happy to go out and watch.
Yeah, we went to see the last one.
Oh, yeah, we was direct.
No, it wasn't. We went to see the last one, the Three Women.
I didn't anticipate that. I was asking you about your theatre memories, and you can't remember the play that you saw last week.
Well, I was saying that we're not going to be part of that world, and that's one of the reasons is that we can't remember anything from last week. We can only remember the past.
Yeah. Because you tend to stay home and work on your apothecary pronunciation, though.
Yeah, so. Yeah. But maybe the theatre needs to take in more technology. I don't know. Maybe it needs to, I mean, I think there's always going to be a live theatre, as it's not theatre, is it? So, but it'd be nice to think that we could have some of the more interesting elements that you see in other professional theatre. I know it's ridiculously expensive, but all these things have been done recently. So it'd be nice to embrace some of the technology and stuff that.
I mean, I think that has happened, hasn't it? I mean, it's a positive to see that we've been able to do online shows, and it is dipping a toe because it's something new. But we didn't have a credit card machine behind the bar for goodness knows how long. We couldn't take card payments for.
We didn't have a till when we had a draw.
Yeah, just on the draw that and I think you have to walk down to the Midland Bank for the takings of the bar.
For the night safe.
For the night safe.
Oh right. Oh no, I think that was before my time, thankfully. I don't think I'd have.
On a good night, you used to take about 35 quid down there.
Which is about £1 million in today's money, I think.
Yeah. But maybe I could be radical here. Maybe it's time for the stage to go.
Well, that's definitely been muted. I mean, people have said a long time that the arch could do with going, and then put a fake one in there. When a play required it. But I think we'd still have to look into whether that's what's holding the roof up. I jest. The roof's fine. It's all fine.
Yeah. But yeah, we need to move it around a bit. I think look at it, and I'm sure the board have been doing masses and stuff. And what I'm thinking and taking the opportunity. Yeah, it's been a real terrible time, but it's also a time. In some ways, it's an absolute luxury that we have.
Yeah, I think.
And to take stock and think, where are we going as a theatre? What are we doing? Actually, let's take this time and really think about it and really consider where we're going and what we want to do as a theatre. And I'm sure all of that's been going on.
Yeah, it's been a good reset, maybe looking at it a slightly different way. Well, thank you so much for talking to me.
Yeah, I'd like. I mean, the reason that
I think we've been running up.
okay. But I was just going to say, I mean, we aren't involved anymore. But one of the main reasons that we're not involved is actually because we've basically got some medical sort of stuff. But that doesn't mean that we won't never be back involved. We
I was
just
gonna
need
say-
to be able to make ourselves more reliable, because we don't want to take things on that we can't fulfill. So
I think this is just a different phase. You know, you've done your bit in terms of like running it. I think you're allowed to be patrons and supporters from afar.
yeah, but you know, I'm sure if comes a time when we're without the medical stuff gets cleared up a bit, then we would like to feel a bit more active.
Well, that would be great to see. And I'm sure you'd be incredibly welcome back. You'll have a broom in your hand before you know it.
At the moment, I can't do. The doctors have said no brooms.
No broom work. Light dustpan and brush only at best.
No dustpan brushing. I can't get the dust.
How do we get this diagnosis? No, we'll talk about it offline.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.